Hey guys, it's me, 21Dubs, and I'm here joined today by Six. Six, say hi to the people.
Hello, nerds.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've talked before with Six Meista on his channel, and we've done a couple of videos together, but it's been over a year, I think, or at least a couple, so welcome back. And for those of you who aren't aware of Six, go check him out. He makes some awesome videos. I'll have them linked down below. Today, as you can tell in the title and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the new hit series, well, new is debatable, Invincible. Specifically, what if Naruto was an Invincible? In a character sort of sense. I'm not making this a story or a narrative. Six, you want to explain it a little bit more? Like what we're going to go over, what kind of topics we're discussing?
So in this video, we're going to be going over three basic categories. The difference in settings between the two series, the unique character designs for the characters we're including, and character interactions between the characters we're deciding to add into the universe and characters that are already there. The basic concept of the video is we're going to be trying to figure out how we could place characters from Naruto into the Invincible world, make them make sense within the Invincible power system, and even have them reinterpreted into the Invincible writing style.
Fantastic. So just like you said, let's get started with that first category. So talking about setting. One of the big key differences like I've noticed since watching the first 3 seasons of Invincible is Invincible is such a modern day setting that it's almost like parody of real life, where you have these modern cities and metropolitan areas. It's just like superheroes have been injected into everyday life, while Naruto is more akin to like an 1800s style shinobi classic fantasy novel. Six, what do you think about that?
When it comes to the unique differences, obviously there is technology present in Naruto, but it's really not a core concept in Naruto, so it just makes it feel behind the time it's trying to represent, or sometimes even making it feel ahead of the time it wants to represent. Overall, when it comes to setting base, I think Invincible is way more of a stable verse, while Naruto kind of fluctuates between a pseudo-modern and a medieval fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see kind of examples like that with Naruto having things like television, but not like modern weapons. So we distinctly notice a lack of things like guns, while in Invincible, we have even more futuristic weapons like spacecraft. We have advanced technology that can manipulate people through audio. It's definitely a bit difference in setting. So when we were talking, we had to decide how we're going to adapt this style of story from Naruto being a shonen to this modern like comics interpretation that Invincible is. So I think one of those big differences too first is like how Naruto's like hidden village system would work. So let's say we're taking the 5 great nations and we're pulling them into the world of Invincible. Something that we notice in Invincible is a lot of abilities stem from historical context. Six, I think there's a character you were interested in that you wanted to make a direct comparison with to Naruto himself. Do you want to talk a little bit more about him?
So in Invincible, we see this character. His name is Mr. Liu. He has a dragon spiritually connected to himself. It was sort of sealed inside of him, close to what Agent Cherokee would be. The main setting we see in his backstory is something very similar to Naruto, even though it takes it takes place closer to the modern day to than the age that Naruto tries to represent. But visually and even story-like, they try and represent more of like this Chinese or Japanese village that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere and hasn't really adapted to the modern times. And personally, I think not only this character but their backstory could really help to integrate the characters from Naruto lore into Invincible.
Yeah, so like we talked about, like Mr. Ryu, he's got like an Eastern Asian style of his character. To delve a little bit more into how that works, based on magic. So Invincible does have concepts like magic. We have to decide still, like, would chakra even work in this setting? How would it apply? And would we make it specific to like a cultural standing? So in this case, like we were talking about the Great Nations, maybe the Great Nations have their own belief system in Hagoromo or the Sage of Six Paths, and that allows them some form of ability. But we'll get into that a little bit more with the character design. For now, some other differences is how like brutal versus, I guess, spiritually defeated characters are in Naruto versus Invincible. I want to talk a little bit about Invincible's like permeance of death. In Naruto, when someone dies, and I'm just going to use Jiraiya here as a reference, we see like when someone dies in Naruto, it's a big deal. Zabuza's death, Haku's death, Jiraiya. These are huge character defining moments in Naruto, and they're very rare. Like we have a lot of side characters who like Gaara takes out with his sand coffin, but ultimately like main characters, when they are taken out, it is permanent. They don't usually come back. It's not like Invincible in that sense, where Invincible, we've seen characters like Duplikate, who had all of her clones obliterated and was written back into the story, where we kind of like see characters who are killed off and then return to the plot. How does that make death an important concept in both series?
Obviously, a lot of the time, comic books, which span for much longer or have much wider universes with a fewer amount of characters, really stay attached to the focus point, which is the characters. So a lot of these characters are recurring in some way, shape, or form, be it literal revivals, new interpretations. For example, Nightwing, or whatever his name was, Darkwing, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Darkwing.
But a major point is people get so attached to these characters, they don't want to let them go, and comic writers, being part of these giant corporations that kind of enforce returning these characters, versus stuff like Naruto, where all the decisions are made with a singular person, and maybe sometimes small alterations are made. But the big thing in Naruto is that death is not necessarily a thing of, oh, they're dead, so they're gone. It's more like this character has been defeated. It no longer feels like they're this outgoing, strong individual. It feels like now that they have been defeated, now that they are early on or even midway through, have been brought down, that in the future, when characters become more powerful, there will be no room for them, because a lot of characters that die, obviously, are these older characters. But that's not only true for main characters, that's true for villains as well. It's an absolute defeat. Sure, you might see a villain later on through something like the reanimation jutsu, but those characters really don't hold the same amount of significance that they did before their death, because it is really just a changing of tides in how the world is progressing and getting stronger around them, and those characters would inevitably, even if returned, fall behind so far. There's no point in having them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I appreciate that. That was some great insight. Like Six was saying, it's such a static difference between the writing styles of the two stories. And as someone who isn't super big in comic books, I think that's I didn't even think about that. Like where you have different writers determining based on issues, like what characters need to stick around, versus something like Naruto where we have Kishimoto making all the decisions in like this long overarching story. I think it's Invincible's a unique case because unlike a lot of older comic books, like with Superman and the different golden ages, we see like different authors take the stage. But I believe Kirkman still maintained hold over Invincible for like a long time. So because of that, there is still like an overarching story built with these mini arcs, which is why a lot of people feel like Invincible is written similar to some anime. So I see a lot of people compare MHA to Invincible because of their similar settings. But I think Naruto is a great comparison. How do you feel about moving on to talking about the character designs on how we're going to integrate this shinobi type of character into the world of Invincible?
When it comes to integrating characters into the world of Invincible, once again, we need to take account for all the differences in the setting, but also in the characters themselves. This doesn't necessarily mean like literal visual design or personality, but more like how their personality would develop and make sense in this new world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take the first one here. I'm going to talk about Rock Lee, I think, from Naruto in the world of Invincible. I'm really interested in this because of his whole goal, right? So for just a quick refresher, I'm sure everyone here knows who Lee is. Rock Lee is born talentless. He does not have the capacity for things like ninjutsu. His entire kit is built on the idea that he sharpened the one thing he could do and to be the best at it. So he punches and kicks things really hard, and he does it so well that he can become stronger through willpower and hard work. He is the definition of hard work beating talent, potentially, in Naruto, which originally was one of its major themes when Naruto was still written to be this underdog. I think Lee in Invincible would be... I hate to say this because I love Lee, but the way Invincible is written is we have... I'm going to reference specifically a couple episodes, I think episode 2 or episode 3 of season 3, we meet these two brothers who are criminals in their career, and they seem like throwaway villains, and they have all of this this sad backstory fleshed out in this incredible silent scene, and then they immediately just get one shot by Invincible. It just displays the unfairness of the world. I could see Lee coming in and saying, like, I've been training this whole time, like, I'm not going to be defeated here, I'll protect you, and immediately just getting rocked by like a Viltrumite or by some great force to be used as not necessarily a butt of a joke, but to kind of reinforce like the world is not fair, because Mark as a character was born and it instantly became one of the strongest superheroes on the planet. So Invincible's themes are very different from Naruto, where we don't necessarily have like hard work beating talent as much as you have to survive in this cruel world. Like, you have what you have and that's how you deal with it. So I could see Lee being used as like a dichotomy in that, where he's the opposite and would kind of be treated like fodder, or maybe not. Maybe he'd get taken out of the fight and then come back with the 8 gates if we incorporate that. I think 8 gates would be pretty cool to see in Invincible, especially if you're fighting someone like, let's see, maybe Battle Beast. That'd be pretty cool, like a Rock Lee versus Battle Beast fight. That'd be kind of neat. What do you think about that?
When it comes to the topic of Lee integration, of course, I think you did a brilliant job there. But when it comes to fights like Battle Beast versus Rock Lee, I can't help but to imagine Mike Guy versus Kisame, like Lee getting his booty whooped by Battle Beast, and then like 2 months later him showing up again and Lee being on par with him and just not being able to remember who the hell this is.
Oh, like just taking out Battle Beast like instantly?
It's like, I don't know who you are, but you seem strong.
Okay, I could see that. Definitely. I just thought of, so the reason I thought of Battle Beast is because Lee is, well, for one, Battle Beast is just, he enjoys combat, and his whole character is written to be like a source of pure violence. I think it'd be interesting to see a fight between the two. But yeah, I could definitely, I think in terms of like strength, I don't think anyone here is going to think that Invincible characters are physically more powerful than some of the top tiers of Naruto. Like, we see some incredible things from the end of the war arc from all of these characters, right? Like, we see Sasuke and Naruto become, like, they cross dimensions. Naruto as a 19-year-old takes out the entire moon. So I don't think that's necessarily up for question. What I do think is up for question is like how their fighting style would change. Like, I think Naruto would be like, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I think Naruto would be incredibly brutal in the Invincible universe, where a Rasengan is just like, we're getting the train scene with Mark here, okay? Like, Naruto's just gonna throw a Rasengan through people, or a Rasen Shuriken. It would be horrific. I could see we'd be getting some Berserk style stuff. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think that their abilities in a more violent context and less character-driven context would make them more violent. One other thing that I just was thinking about, and you can disagree with me on this, Six, if you want. I could see the GDA, so like the Global Defense Agency, trying to like hire the shinobi villages and like keep them as like a personal, maybe intelligence like army, or used as kind of like how Darkwing was used recently, or Darkwing Jr. Was used recently as like a last resort to take on like threats they don't have any resources to fight. What do you think about that? Like, kind of switching the Daimals with the GDA.
Something like that would definitely make sense, but what I feel the villages would more represent are individual hero agents, or individual hero agencies that are scattered across the Asian regions. It could make a lot of sense for the GDA to be like, yeah, we're American-based, we try to protect the world, but obviously we have limited control in other countries, so having places like the shinobi villages that train heroes, it would be very easy to reach out to them and offer support and kind of request support in the future, practically helping them maintain the Asian regions while also receiving support in like worldwide threats. For example, things like Viltrumites, of course.
Cool. I agree. I think I do think we have to change the system from being so like fealty based with the daimao to having this more open, maybe kind of like a company, like Six was suggesting, with like these hero agencies, instead training gifted shinobi from youth. I could see characters like Multipaul and Duplikate even being taken in by these like organizations instead, especially because of their abilities being so similar to things like the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Maybe that would be an origin that would be incorporated into it. Like instead of being cursed, they'd have some lineage from the Leaf Village or from some other like famous shinobi as well. I could see that being interesting. But like moving on kind of from like the design of how these characters would take in combat, I kind of touched on it a little bit. What do you think would be some interesting character interactions here? Like who from Naruto would you want to see interact with these other characters?
In all honesty, I think a great interaction would be between a character like Naruto and Mr. Liu, who we mentioned earlier. Both of them are Jinchuriki-like, of course, with Naruto being a literal Jinchuriki, possibly even an altered version of Mr. Liu himself. Maybe they're more spirits than just this mythical dragon, and as time progressed, they'd learned from the mistakes of characters like Mr. Liu and kind of tried to integrate it more as like, instead of you being able to take on the form of the spirit, you draw power from it instead, which could obviously explain Naruto's abilities, but also opens up a large duality between Naruto and Mr. Louis. Mr. Louis in his young age was seen as a hero who took on the spirit to save people around him, and then later on became a villain that was world-renowned, trying to run things from the shadows. People genuinely feared him. And I feel like a lot of that would carry over to characters like Naruto, where it's like, we fear him because we saw what people like him could become. But Naruto doesn't take the same path. Instead, he wants to prove them wrong, prove that he's a hero. But I feel there'd be more moments like Mark had, where it's like, I'm actually killing people. It's not gonna be a thing of like, oh, I'm gonna talk to someone and they're gonna redeem themselves and die in some way. It's like, a Rasengan to the chest will kill 99% of villains. Like, it would be like throwing someone in a blender.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, I think, again, the writing would have to change drastically because of the destructive power of these characters. I totally agree with Six on this. So, again, like, I really like that connection. So instead of Naruto being feared for the Ninetales attack, maybe the Ninetales fox spirit stays as a spirit instead of being this like tree monster derivative. I like the idea of the Ninetales being another one of these spirits, like the divine dragon. Maybe we'd have like Mr. Ryu being kind of like a character fold for Naruto, where the two would meet and maybe have a couple different fights. People would treat Naruto poorly because of him being a Jinchuriki, or like a spirit's dweller, or whatever it would be called in Invincible. I think I definitely like that. Something else I was interested in is like the clan system. So assuming we keep like these hero agencies as these large organizations instead of just the hidden villages, I think people with special abilities like the Uchiha might be valued more, and maybe they'd be offered contracts. Like, I could see the Akatsuki being like a mercenary.
Like unique powers being like genetically carried over, similar to Multipaul and Duplikate.
Yes, I could see that being valued, especially by like governments. And maybe instead of Itachi betraying his clan and killing them and then disappearing to join the Akatsuki to protect the village, we'd have some sort of scene where he's taking them out, and when he tells Sasuke like, the less of you there are, the more value my Sharingan carries. So we could like focus on greed, or maybe talk about like how these abilities have corrupted values of families. I think that'd be interesting to make like Sasuke as a character in Invincible.
Obviously, we have organizations like the Order, which could easily replace the Akatsuki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Itachi could have obviously joined them in the attempts to be like, oh, I'm inciting. I'm trying to help the GDA find out what these criminal organizations are doing. But when Sasuke inevitably gets to that breaking point, he is seeking out their help to destroy his former home, possibly believing that these hero agencies are practically corrupting people, turning more people into people like Itachi, these power-hungry heroes that have no heroic aspects about them, kind of like what Stain would be in MHA, where he's trying to purify what it means to be a hero, even if that means dirtying his own hands.
He's cooking, okay? He's cooking. I agree. I think Multipaul is a really good character to interact with Sasuke as well because of his experience like as a government test subject. We could see like Sasuke meeting this assassin of the order and them fighting. I also think Mark, like as an Invincible, would be a good fold here for Sasuke, specifically because of after Omni-Man's attack. Like we have Sasuke and his entire clan being wiped out by Itachi, and the Itachi being seen as this monster kind of attached to Sasuke. Like the hero agencies would kind of almost blame Sasuke as like, like we lost a lot of our shareholder value here because of this. And I could see like that being a good character comparison to Mark, who is struggling with trying to keep his own identity separate from Omni-Man when he fought to protect the world and his father trying to destroy it. You know, really trying to be... I'm gonna drop the title card there. Anyway, I think some other, like moving on from like Sasuke, I do think like we're cooking with this order stuff. Some other characters I would like to see would be ones like Tsunade and the Sannin. We don't really have a ton of like older role model characters in Invincible. I guess you could say we have like the Immortal or Cecil Stedman, or even like Black Samsung, but like who's looking out to Black Samsung? So I would love to see like the Sannin and how they like work in a modern society. Maybe Tsunade would be like the leader of these huge healthcare organizations, and she could be related to like taking care of superheroes who are injured.
Let's be honest, there'd have to be another Tsunade retrieval arc. Maybe that would have been true in the past, but with a modern age gambling machines, we both know where Tsunade is going to be.
She's in Vegas.
In debt in some casino in Tokyo.
She's in Vegas. Jiraiya Sensei, where are we going? We're going to the land of sin, Vegas.
And maybe while we're there, we could
stop on the strip.
Do some research.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this is really fun. I had a great time. So if you want to see more of like a modern Naruto,
me and Weeb have taken it upon ourselves to do a Naruto reboot, where we functionally look at what Naruto has done in the past and how it could reinterpret those old stories or even reimagine them to fit better into the current age of shonen manga, and how drastically anime has changed over the years while still keeping the core essence of Naruto intact.
Make sure to go check that out. Appreciate it. Hit the cool buttons down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
See you, nerds.